the beginning.
No, so the difference with the UK is, and I mean, this is my personal feeling, they didn't advise to wear masks because there were no masks to wear.
They didn't say that.
No, that's my feeling. That's just, but we know that we did try to buy masks, didn't we? Before the pandemic really kicked off here.
Yeah.
We just tried to buy them and we found them really hard to get hold of, just like commercially. Yeah. And so our government didn't give any, well, I don't know, did they give any advice on face masks or did they just say,
they basically
insinuated they weren't really helpful?
They basically said it's only helpful if you have COVID. And obviously, but even if you've got COVID, you should be staying at home. But otherwise they said
you wouldn't know when you have COVID or who has COVID.
But they said otherwise it's not as useful, or it wasn't recommended. So they were basically saying the main thing was to wash your hands for the length of singing happy birthday twice.
Yeah, I remember that.
Thing of 2 meters.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the only two real advice that the government gave here.
Yeah. So I don't know, with the face masks, you have to ask yourself, like for us, between March and now, when we do have to wear face masks, like in a shop, has the science changed? Or is it simply the supply chain changed and we can get the masks, so therefore the government can then say, oh, you now need to wear it.
So your local pharmacies now all supply face masks, which they didn't do before.
I mean, for me, it just seems so convenient that they can now say, yeah, you need to wear it because the mask.
Do you also think it's partly influenced by Asian culture as well? Like, because obviously I don't feel like they didn't really experience something like SARS, where we automatically, it's in our culture to even wear masks when you're ill and, you know, when you're in public. It's such a common thing, whereas I feel like it's such a foreign thing for Western countries. They just they see face masks as something that is only worn by surgeons, you know. So maybe it could be, you know, the fact that they've been seeing, oh, everyone in Asia has been wearing it, so there must be a reason. And I feel like in comparison to, you know, people contacting COVID and people dying from COVID, like the numbers in Western countries are much higher, even when they're a less densely populated countries. So I feel like, you know, there might be, I mean, who knows? So
I mean,
that's just my speculation.
That cultural difference with like us not really wearing face masks here, and the fact the government didn't say at the start to us wear masks has really caused a problem for them now, because now they're saying, hey, you should wear a mask, but they've spent months like not necessarily discrediting masks, but not actually bigging up, hey, it'd be a good idea to. And because we don't have, like you say, we don't have that cultural background of wearing a mask if you're ill. So I think for some sectors of society here, it's been really difficult to convince them to wear a mask. You know, like we know of people that really are against the idea of wearing a mask, and that could be for various reasons, but it's definitely a thing that's been harder to get. I mean, we've even got demonstrations here where people are against lockdown, and within that there'll be multiple factors, but there will be people that are against it because of wearing a mask, you know. So yeah, I guess that's been a really tough job for the government to do that. But then you could say, did they bring that on themselves with their messaging at the beginning of the pandemic in the way they communicated about masks? That I don't think they did a good job of.
Cool. So we have this idea of herd immunity here, which was bounced around right at the beginning.
Allegedly.
It was leaked that the government was potentially going down the route of herd immunity instead of lockdown. And then it created an uproar over here. So in Asia, or in Hong Kong in particular, has there been this argument that herd immunity should happen instead of lockdown, or is it completely like, no, that's not the way to go down?
As in, like, everyone just infects everyone until...
everyone it gets infected and creates antibodies, and then you create an immunity.
No, I don't think it's ever been discussed as a thing here, but I don't think they believe in it. I mean,
Mm.
how do you just create an antibody if just because everyone's
Because they've had it, and then they've, you know, they've survived it, and then they've created an immunity to it. So
I
but
think
that hasn't really been a thing over.
yeah, and I feel like with COVID, people say that, oh, you know, it's just a flu. Yeah, it is a type of flu, but it's affecting people, especially people with weaker immune systems. They literally die from it. So I guess you could say, yeah, you create antibodies, but it could be the case for people like us who are quite young and, you know, have the immune system is much stronger. But are you telling me if you're infecting people like young children and older people, and if they die from it, that's just like natural selection? I mean, I don't really believe in it, I guess.
Just wondered if that idea was bounced around much.
No, it's not a thing for us.
Not at all.
Yeah, completely off.
I feel like some Western countries are. Some have embraced it. So Sweden is a country that's embraced it. And then some, I feel like, you know, USA, just the way they've been tackling it feels like that's the way they're going down. And then UK is kind of mixed, I feel like. I feel like there is an element of the government saying, because we want to save the economy, then there's an element of herd immunity, it being accepted. I feel anyway.
And I think the kind of breaking point for our government is when all of the hospital beds fill up. That's almost like the breaking point where they say, oh, we need to lock down because if any more people get infected, then there just won't be the hospital beds there to care for them. But so there seems to be, and again, this is just our thoughts, not necessarily any evidence on saying this, that it's acceptable to let a certain amount of people get infected, maybe the younger, like with schools, kids going back to school recently here. It's important for them to get their education, but I think the messaging from the government is almost like kids are fine. They won't get hurt by this at all, which, okay, maybe there's not many or any, I don't know, deaths in kids, but of course they can still spread it to relatives at home. So it's just, I don't know, there's a lot of mixed messaging, isn't there, on
I mean, especially it's something that we've never experienced before. I mean, it's such a foreign thing. It's never like a right or wrong answer. I feel like the whole thing with masks as well, I feel like people who are so against it is that I feel like they need that 100% proof that it works, but sometimes it's not about that. It's about, if it's something so new and we don't know what to do about it, why don't you try something that could potentially help? That's my sort of mentality. But I feel like for some it's kind of, well, I need proof that it definitely helps before I would do something.
That's a really good point, actually, about the 100% proof. I mean, I think the sensible person would say it's not going to be 100%, but it's got to help by the fact that you're covering your nose and your mouth. So anything that helps is just like another step in protecting yourself.
So
especially with the seriousness of you know, global pandemic. So
both governments have mandated wearing masks now, right? Your government in Hong Kong has said if you go out, you need to wear a mask. And our government has said, if you go to indoor places, then you have to wear a mask. So for us, outdoor is fine. You don't need to wear a mask. Okay. So I was thinking in Hong Kong, they've given every citizen a free face mask. Just one? Like a reusable one?
Yeah, one reusable one that you can wash, I think, for 40 or 60 times.
Okay. Whereas in the UK, we've not had any free face masks. So our government has said to people, you have to wear it inside, but we're not going to give you any. And we're going to penalise you if you don't wear it.
Yeah. I mean, that's, it feels harsh, right? To say there's a law, you have to do something, but then I think it punishes, like, imagine like the low paid worker or the unemployed person, telling them you have to go out and buy a mask. before you can go shopping.
Mhm.
So just
Well, they just said face covering. So I mean, people have been using like scarves and
That's true.
things like that.
yeah.
I mean, even to be honest, even with that free face mask thing, like I don't really see anyone wearing it.
No one wears it.
No one.
I think I saw the chief executive wear it at a press con.
Is that the one that kept coming off?
I don't know who that's
Well,
Yeah.
I think we nicknamed it like the granny panty or like something like old person's bra or something like that.
The colour
it's
not very nice.
Isn't it?
Yeah, and obviously we prefer using disposable, like use once and dispose sort of masks here. So yeah, I don't think I haven't really seen anyone using reusable ones like cloth.
Oh, okay. So it's not as, so most people would use disposable ones in Hong Kong.
Yeah, just because scientifically it has that sort of extra filtration layer that supposedly eliminates a lot of
it's the surgical
bacteria.
ones, right? The surgical masks.
Yeah, and again, like surgical mask is such a common thing here. So for us, like reduction, it's not an issue anymore. So whereas I feel like obviously in Western countries, because it's not something that's widely available to everyone to begin with, so using a cloth face mask is the least you should be doing,
In Hong Kong, so obviously cases were really low for ages, and then it spiked because of flights coming in from other Asian countries. But in Hong Kong, you have this system at the airport where they test people before they're allowed to go, and they quarantine everyone, right? So
so it's mandatory. You have to.
How come they weren't able to control the next spike if they were doing the testing and making sure people quarantine?
Oh, that's a
that's a question.
Hard question.
There's maybe inaccuracies in the testing.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say the test would be 100% accurate. I mean, people could start developing it even after the testing period, or if they've been in contact with a certain area and there's just bacteria floating in the air. I mean, because you're not transported in a bubble, so there are going to be chances of it, but it is widely, it does eliminate the chances of people contacting it before they, starts roaming around in Hong Kong.
So how about the UK, and when people are coming into the UK,
oh God,
what's been happening there?
So my sister recently went to Spain, and she said, well, what she told me is in Spain they're handling things a lot better than we are here, and I can't remember specifically at the airport what
I think
the case
she said they did temperature check.
I did temperature check in Spain, which is already better than what we do here, which was absolutely nothing.
A form. We have a form.
We have a form.
That's how we protect against COVID. We have a form.
She arrived back. She said she went through the customs and the border check, and they didn't ask, like, they don't talk about, oh, you've come back from Spain, or you've come back from anywhere or whatever, you need to isolate for 14 days. She said nothing like that was mentioned.
Just on the flight. On the flight.
It was just like
one announcement on the flight.
An announcement on the flight, yeah. Oh, by the way, you'll need to
self-isolate for 14 days.
But that's not coming like from the police. That's not like an authority saying you must do this. That's just like an advisory thing.
Yeah.
So, and she had a form to hand in, I think, which would have her contact details on and all of that. But beyond that,
again, it's just very suggestive of what you should be doing and not what you